You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 199, Tracking Metrics to Get Your Thumb on the Pulse of Your Business with Layne Booth. If you're a business owner who wants to improve your time management and elevate your productivity so you can maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I'm looking forward to this episode because I kind of geek out about the numbers and the metrics. And today I get to geek out and talk numbers and metrics and why they matter in our business with Layne Booth. Layne is the CEO and dashboard expert of the Project Booth, a business growth agency that uses proven metrics and data to bring business owners to the next level in their business. By up-leveling client services with strategically planning and visual dashboards, business owners can reclaim their time to focus on their business, make data-driven decisions, and increase their income. With her passion and over a decade of in-the-trenches experience as a guiding light, Layne ensures successful client-focused business owners simplify their strategies and increase their profits so they can get back to running the business they love. One of Layne's favorite phrases is data over drama, and you're going to get to hear more about that in today's episode. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to make sure you know that you are invited to a special Productivity Roundtable event. Layne is hosting a Productivity Roundtable with myself and 9 other business owners. And you can join us for this event for free by going to amber.scaling2021.com to get your free access to productivity shortcuts for high-achieving solopreneurs. I would definitely check it out and register so that you can join us for this event going down on Thursday, May 6th. And now let's meet our guest and get to the straight talk. Welcome to Productivity Straight Talk, Layne. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing great. So excited to be here.
I am excited too. This is a topic I can pretty much geek out about, and there's no better person to chat with about this than you. We did a little pre-chat and I'm thinking this might be a long episode, which is in all the good ways because I think we have so much goodness to bring to our listeners. Layne, before we jump in, I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself that we may have not heard in the official bio. So if you want to share a little bit with us, as well as telling us how in the world did you grow up and say, I want to be the person that knows all things metrics for businesses? Like, what was that journey for you?
Well, I don't think there was any part in my childhood or anything like that was like, yes, I want to be the number nerd that people talk about at parties.
Right. I love that too, because I tell my son too, I'm like, honestly, the job you're going to have doesn't even exist. Like, well, let's not stress about this. You're 10. You could have anything. So, all right. So you weren't dreaming of numbers and being the number nerd.
No, but I was really good at being organized and solving problems on the fly. So from, art projects that my team member ran into, I would figure out how to still make it pretty. Even though paint went everywhere, I would improvise. Or, if I was also an athlete, so I was always looking at the numbers like, hey, can I beat that 10-minute mile? Can I beat the 9-minute mile? And things like that. So numbers were kind of swirling around, and from there, I knew I had an affinity for them, and I did go to school for engineering. So numbers coming out your ears for that, and progressively through my time at corporate is really where it anchored. I was working for a Fortune 500 company, very, very big supply chain, and it was very necessary part of my role to bubble up what was happening from the manufacturing floor all the way to, customer orders, how things were going. Were we moving the right direction? Were we going to hit our numbers that we had to report to Wall Street? So that is where the numbers started really taking hold. I learned a ton there. And so that's really where I cut my teeth on figuring out, okay, how can we use numbers to grow businesses, to answer questions for the CEO and make it simple so that they could take action?
Yes. And what I love is that you have made this something that's attainable and someone that a small business owner can learn and implement. It's no longer just for big manufacturing companies or X dollar amount. Like this is, because it's so valuable, should be in every small business as well.
Absolutely. I mean, Forbes states that nearly 80% of small businesses fail due to the inability to nail down a profitable business model. And I truly believe it's because small business owners haven't been given the numbers to know along the way to actually tell if they are going to be creating a profitable business, or what to do if things are not starting out profitable. How can you address those? And we've just found that the best way to do that, the best way to scale, is to know the numbers that are going to support you in that journey.
Yes. Unfortunately, I've had so many conversations, I'm sure you have too, with small business owners that simply don't even know their numbers. Like they work so hard, they're incredibly skilled, they're doing good, and they kind of just tuck the numbers in a drawer, like a junk drawer, and never look at it again. Or they never did look at it, right? Like they're afraid to look at the numbers. What would you say to our listener that is like, I don't even know where to start with my numbers. It scares me. Why should they not be scared of the numbers?
Such a great question, Amber. And it's so true too. I definitely want to acknowledge, anyone out there that is thinking, yep, that's me right now, because when you don't know what you don't know, it can feel a little bit overwhelming and scary. But at the same time, just like you learned anything else, just like how you learn to walk and learn to run, it's something that starts very simple and you kind of get your balance. And that's really my mission as well, is to make the numbers simple so that they're not scary. And what's great about that is you don't need to know all the numbers in your business. I actually advise against that. I don't want to overwhelm anyone here that needs to make important decisions to grow their business. But there are a few numbers that you can get started with that will be very, very beneficial for you. And I know we're going to talk a little bit further on those today, because if you know even just one or two areas in each, I have 3 core pillars that we really talk to our clients about on what 3 areas to focus on. If you know just 1 or 2 numbers in those key areas, you are going to start feeling like, oh, now I have a thumb on the pulse of the business. Now I'm starting to feel like a CEO that knows what's happening in my business.
Yes, I love you. You actually shared such a powerful principle. We share a lot here at Productivity Straight Talk. And it's like, start small, start somewhere, get that foundation, and then you can choose to grow and build upon that. What's version 1.0? And we're definitely going to talk about that today. I think we're going to dive deep too, for those of you that do have version 1.0, about some other things that you may have not thought about, and how metrics can affect your business. I just want to share just the mindset around it before we dive into the actual geeking out about the numbers and stuff. And it's that my belief is that metrics can actually be incredibly empowering. I have found that we often stick them in a drawer and don't want to look at them because of the story that's attached to them, whether it's true or not. And so I want each of you to just come to this conversation and kind of listen in on Layne and I speaking about metrics today as the numbers don't need to have a negative story. They can actually be numbers that are just data that will drive and empower you to make different choices in your business, including how you're investing your time, how you're growing your team, how you are making decisions, like Layne mentioned, about what is profitable and not profitable in the business. So again, numbers are empowering to make decisions as the CEO. So jump in. We're in for an exciting conversation.
Yes.
Layne, where should we start? So let's just start from, the beginning. Where would you say that we should start if someone doesn't know what a metric is? Let's start there. What is a metric? Why do we are throwing this word around? How would you define a metric to our business owners listening?
Such a great starting point. Yes. So when we talk about metrics, you might hear the term metrics, you might hear numbers, you might hear KPIs if you want to get really fancy with me. And those are key performance indicators. So there's different terms out there that get used depending on, what your industry looks like and things like that. But basically, it's a number, it's a data point that is telling you, it's bringing the data, not the drama. I like how you kind of alluded to that
awesome.
as well.
Data, not drama.
we're removing the drama. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not, it has no feelings attached to it. It is just a data point. So it's kind of like saying it's 70 degrees outside right now. It's a way for you to gauge what the current state of affairs is. And so one of the most powerful numbers, or one of the most prominent numbers your listeners are probably used to looking at, is like their sales or their revenue number. So how much money did you make last year? How much money did you make last month? That's probably one of the most common metrics, most common numbers that business owners are aware of and are looking at. And what's even the next step to that is to not just know one data point, but to know what your trends are over time. That's where knowing your numbers gets to be really, really powerful. So it's not just that, I made, $10,000 last month, but I only made $5,000 the month before. So wow, I doubled. So that's the trending part gets to be the next level. Once you are clear on your baseline, you're clear on a couple of numbers in your business, then you want to be able to also start looking at those over time to see how they're changing. Are your numbers going up? And do we want them to go up? Are your numbers going down? And do we want them to go down?
Okay. And when you say trending over time, I would imagine that some of the data that we're going to talk about, or metrics that we're going to talk about today, have a different answer. But what do you recommend a small business owner to update their metrics? Are we talking weekly or monthly? Like, what's a good starting point for these numbers that we're tracking to get these trends?
That's such a great question. And, I feel like right now is a great time of year. So we're in the start of Q2. Now's a great time to do an annual look at how things went last year so that you have some sort of frame of reference. But then on a regular basis, I'd love for you to monitor a couple of metrics every single month, minimum monthly, because I like to talk about this like you are, you're playing a basketball game or you're playing some sort of sport. You want to know how many points you're putting up on the board as you're playing the game. You don't want to get just to the end of the game, end of the year, and find out, I didn't score enough to win this year. So being able to track that at least monthly, and there will be some I do recommend weekly, but at least monthly is a great, great place to start.
Okay. And then would you agree that tracking sales / revenue is only half of the story, or a small part of the story that we should be getting? And I say stories loosely, like I'm trying to take that back because I'm like, we said numbers don't have stories. We'll say, would you agree that sales or revenue is only a part of the picture that we're trying to extract from our business?
Absolutely. It's an important part of the story, but unfortunately, it's just the end, honestly, right? Because at the time you get a sale, everything else has already happened in your business. By the time you have, money in the bank, you've already worked on marketing. You've already delivered, to your clients or your customers. You've already spent time, energy, and effort in so much more of the business that the revenue and sales at the end is like the last thing. Like once it's in the bank, there's not really a whole lot you can do about it. So it's very important because it's very trackable. And at the end of the day, it is probably your number one metric that you are looking at. But there's so much that's leading up to that can impact that number as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm guessing we're going to talk about and pull back what are the other things that would affect that. And then oftentimes we talk about profitability. So the number that we're looking for on a regular basis too would be profitability. But based on what you just said, that's also the end of the game, right? Like whatever happened in marketing, whatever happened with your, investing in your team or it has already happened. And then we get to the end, which would either be, revenue, sales / profitability. Is that correct for you?
Absolutely. Yes. And, if we want to, again, I'll throw out for anyone that's really excited about this stuff like I am, like these are what you would refer to as lagging indicators. So it's something that happens at the end, right? So it's an end result versus some of the actually the most potent and most powerful metrics are what we would call leading indicators. So I like to call these like the little breadcrumbs of your business that are telling you where you're going to land. So we want to be tracking the breadcrumbs. This is where you have the most push and pull, the most opportunity to change things in the business so that you do hit your revenue goals, so that you do hit your profitability goals at the end.
Oh my gosh, I just had a big aha. Now I've known about lead and lag metrics, but when I said that numbers can be empowering, I get it now. If you're only looking at sales, revenue, and profitability, which are lag, which are the most popular, most common numbers, no wonder why you feel it not empowered or like there's nothing you can do about it. Clearly, it already happened. So we are going to talk about these breadcrumbs that you are empowered to make change and make a different decision so that ultimately you can see that those choices change the outcome of your lag numbers, which would be revenue / profitability.
That's it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, great. So we are gonna put the sales, revenue, and profitability to the side. We know those numbers. How do we get there, and what breadcrumbs matter to our businesses?
Yes. So a great way to think about this is to think about the 3 core pillars of your business. So we identify those 3 core pillars as your sales and marketing, your operations, and your finance. So again, we just identified that finance is the lagging indicator that's happening at the end. So your most opportunity typically lies in the first 2 pillars, in your marketing and in your operations. So I would suggest that we go ahead and start diving into marketing. Most folks are probably spending some time and energy here already.
Yes.
And most people are probably not tracking the marketing metrics, not tracking those marketing numbers, or maybe even you're outsourcing some of the marketing and you don't even know if your contractors or consultants are doing a good job.
Yes, for sure. So in my model, so I just want to lay over my model because my listeners have heard this many times, unless you're brand new and this is your first episode. So mine fall very closely to Layne's, and I have 4 pillars, which is your first pillar is marketing and visibility. Let the world know what it is you do and how you do it. Then pillar 2 is sales. And then pillar 3 is servicing your client. Which I think I'm going to guess, Layne, would that be operations is how we service our clients efficiently?
Exactly.
Okay. All right, good. And then the 4th pillar for me is leadership, like building your team and leading your team. And I just wanted to lay that over because we are talking about the same exact things. Don't get confused. So sales and marketing is where we're going to start with, which would be my first pillars and Layne's first pillar.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's fun. It's interesting how we're so closely aligned there, Amber.
Exactly. And because this is where it all starts. That's how I teach it. And that's how you are teaching. You're like, let's start in sales and marketing, because anywhere else you start in the model doesn't matter if your numbers aren't working, if you're not consistent in sales and marketing, if you're not converting. And so we got to know if it's working. Let's find out. How do we know if it's working?
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like this is such a powerful thing to look at because so many people think that, hey, if I just double down on my marketing, then things are going to work. But honestly, doubling down on your marketing sometimes can just kill your cash flow and put a huge crunch on what you have going on. So one of the most important things you can do for your marketing is prove that it is working. This is what we like to look at as a return on investment, an ROI. Because if you are spending, I like to use this story analogy. If I was to say, hey, Amber, I'm going to give you $10,000 to spend on marketing, and you need to produce at least $20,000 in sales from that. That's kind of a good indicator. If your heart just kind of went, ooh, I have to spend $10,000. I don't know if I'm going to see 20K back.
Right.
Then that's probably an indication that you don't really trust how good your marketing is right now. Because if I'm going to spend $1, then I want to get at least $2 back from that. If I'm going to spend $10,000, I want to get $20,000 back. So that's like a good kind of gauge on how comfortable or how trustworthy you feel like your marketing is right now. Does that make sense?
It makes 100% sense. Like, because I'm just thinking of all the things that we as small business owners do because we think we should, right? Like, let's just call it Instagram, right? Like marketing on Instagram or social media. And yet if we have no way to gauge, is it actually bringing in qualified buyers? How much money are we spending? How much time are we spending on those posts because we think we should be doing that? Whereas if we had these numbers, we'd be able to make the decision to say, well, while it's important in overall branding, it's not more important than shifting our time and energy and money resources to something else that gets a $20,000 return on a $10,000 investment. Like you mentioned, like, we have to know if it's working to say, yes, I'm going to continue it, or no, I'm not. Or there's a third option, which means do it differently, like tweak it because you're not getting the results. There's always that too.
Exactly. And I would love to make the distinction too. I mean, social media, I feel like is such a powerful tool, but oftentimes we're doing, I'm not sure if you see this also with your audience, Amber, but what I'm witnessing for small business owners is that they are spending so much time being on all the social media platforms that only one or two of them are actually working for them, that are only actually generating leads and engagement and is taking their tribe, their audience to the next step. And instead they feel like, well, my VA does it or my assistant does that. It doesn't really take her that much time. I was like, well, if it doesn't take her that much time, then why not just spend it on the time that is actually producing something for you? If it's only taking her another 10 minutes, then spend 10 more minutes on the platform that's actually getting you results. And maybe you can get better results from that.
Yes. Layne, I have a good example about that. So a couple years ago, I had a Facebook group for the listeners of Productivity Straight Talk. And it wasn't just listeners, it was anyone that could search a Facebook group about productivity, quite honestly. And because I look at my numbers and I'm looking at the pathway of where my ideal clients come from, one time I realized, oh, that's interesting. Not a single private client in my Facebook group. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on that. And then I kept looking at it. I was like, actually, like none of my buyers are actually either engaging or don't even belong to this Facebook group. And it was such a drain on resources to manage comments and keep the content going and to think about it and all of this. I ended up shutting down the Facebook group, not because I didn't have a lot of members and not because I wasn't active. It was actually just not producing anything that would affect my sales revenue or profitability. And so it was in alignment with attracting the right type of clientele that would ultimately work with me in a way. I would have never known that. I would have blindly just done it because everyone had, at that time, it seemed like had a Facebook group. It was super active. And I just would have continued it had I not realized it actually is not bringing me any closer to the business growth goals of the business.
Absolutely. And that's such an important thing that you share there, Amber, because it gets to this place where you feel like you're kind of in a rocking chair. Like it's something to do. I'm staying busy, but I'm not really moving anywhere in the process. And that's what happens so often with a lot of the strategies. You're looking to your neighbor, you're looking to your colleague. Well, they're doing it over there in their interior design business. Maybe it'll work over here for me in my real estate business. Or, we're trying to learn from other people, but we don't necessarily, just because they're doing it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for us in that exact same way. There may be either a lot of tweaking involved or there's so much adjustment that it's really just more empowering for you to stay in your own lane, to stay with what's working for you and refine the machine, refine the marketing tools that you're already employing.
Absolutely. So with regards to the marketing of what's working or not working, and we're talking about a metric, right? One of the questions I ask my clients when I onboard is, where do your clients come from? And I can tell you more often than not, they can't answer that question.
Ouch.
Right? And I work with successful business owners. Like they have successful businesses, but they're not looking at the numbers to be like, I know that X% come from referrals, X% come from repeat clients, X% come from Instagram, they cannot answer those questions. Therefore, we can't talk about where they need to be investing their time more or their team's time more because they don't fundamentally understand that metric of what actually impacts whether they have a client next week.
Yes. So common and so frustrating. And this is where I see so many people end up pulling their hair out. They're like, well, I'm getting some, but they're not necessarily consistent. And you end up with this feast or famine mode when you don't know where they're coming from and you don't know how to push the lever when you need more or pull back the lever when you need less, when you're full, when you're at capacity. So I have 2 tips that I would love to share with your audience on this. I was sharing this actually in my group this morning as well, or with my audience. But one of the most powerful things you can do is to just write down what are the steps people take to buy from you? What are the steps people take to work with you? So, the example, maybe for a service provider, let's actually work backwards on this. Let's say at the end of the day, whoever a potential buyer is needs to book a call with you, needs to have a consultation. Well, what's the thing that happens before that? And what's the thing that happens before that? So maybe it's, hey, they book a call with me and, they had landed on my website and they came to my website because I gave them a card at a networking event. Like that's a 3-step buying process where there's a card that gets handed to them. You're at an event, there's a card, there's a invitation to look at something on your website, and then there's an invitation to book a call. So when you can clearly identify a 3 or 4-part path, we don't have to get super complicated here, but what are maybe some of the 2 to 3 ways? And do that same thing with if you're on Instagram. All right, on Instagram, what am I asking them to do? Is my website on the bio or is it have a nice day? What's the thing that we're asking them to do? And is it leading to booking a consultation call? One of the most common challenges I see folks having is that they're getting visible, but the visibility isn't necessarily tied to the consultation call. Or if you're a brick and mortar and you're looking at people coming in the door, then what is the thing that gets people in the door?
Yeah. So I call that the sales event, right? The conversion. And like you just said, it's different for everyone. We could have, if you're a realtor, it's a listing appointment, a buyer appointment. If you're a designer, it's a consultation. If you're a coach, maybe it's a discovery call like me. When you would work with me, it would be a discovery call to talk about, is this a fit to work together? And then I make the offer. They either work with me or they don't. That's the conversion, right?
Right. But if you'll notice, you had several conversions happening at each step of the way, right? So most commonly, people are looking at the end of this path, right? They're looking at that sales conversion at the end. So, hey, I had 10 consultation calls and 5 said yes. I have a 50% conversion. Well, how good were you at the step before that? So how many, people that landed on your website booked a call? Was that 3%? Was it 10%? And then how many people that you handed the card to actually came to your website? Was that, 50%? So that's the simplest tactic that you can use to track the numbers on the sales and marketing side of things is find out what those 3 or 4 steps are and track the conversions at each step of the game, because more often than not, there's a slice of that path that needs a little tweaking, not the whole path, which is unfortunately where I see a lot of people like, oh, well, this isn't working. Let's go, do something completely new. More often than not, 90% of the time, there's a slice of that path that's not working. And then when you know the numbers on which slice isn't working, makes it really easy and, very, very easy to focus on just one thing and not recreating the wheel.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to give an example of a client of mine. So she is an interior designer. And as the principal, her job is to do the consultations for new clients. And her time is, maxed like any busy business owner is. And she started seeing a trend of meeting, consultations alone. If we asked, is that best use of your time, business owner? They would say, yes, it's a sales event. Like that is the highest and best use of my time. She was very smart. And I'm not taking any credit for this because she literally came to my coaching session with this solution. I just want to highlight her. She said, I realized that of my consultations, there was too high of a percentage that were not qualified buyers. So that made me think, I don't have strong enough language on my website when they're filling out the application, or not the application, but like the questionnaire for a discovery call. So she tweaked it to have some minimums of, this is the minimum budget that my firm works on projects. And immediately she had less consultations, but her conversions were higher, which means she reclaimed time each and every week of not meeting with the wrong prospect or lead. That was brilliant. And I have recommended similar things to my clients in the past, but she came and said, because I'm watching that number told me something up the line, like you were saying, Layne, was broken. And I had to figure out what's broken so that this number improves, which ultimately affects my time.
Yes, so powerful. This is such a great example, Amber, because it can give you like a false sense of what's happening in your business too. She could have looked at that and said, "Oh, wow, I'm terrible at, converting people on the sales call." But when she was able to go back, and this is what we're talking about. Like the metrics don't lie, right? They're not there to bring drama, but they do bring new information and new empowerment to how you make your business decisions. So by understanding, hey, something upstream was a little bit off here, let's fix that. So powerful. Great example.
Yes. All right. And then I want to give another example, Layne, and this is a personal one. For those of you that have been with me for a long time at Productivity Straight Talk, we're going on almost 4 years. Or if you have been one of the listeners that have gone back to the very beginning when you found me, you may have realized that Amber did not do call to actions on ways to work with her when she first started her podcast. She thought, surely, if you loved what you were getting out of the podcast, you would know how to work with me and go find me on my website. That didn't work. The numbers proved that did not work. That all the work and effort and time into putting out, quality content on the podcast, which is my main marketing stream, I had to connect the dots much, much clearer. And so if you listen to the evolution, you'll see me actually in real time getting clearer and clearer about what does it take to actually call in the right clients and be so clear about how I can help them. That was not true 4 years ago at all. And had I just looked at those numbers, I would have said, man, podcasting doesn't work. What am I going to do now? Like, how am I going to attract people to my business? Like, okay, I give up on podcasting. Luckily, I love podcasting too much. And so I really looked at the numbers to figure out, well, what was wrong there? And it was just strategy that had to be tweaked, the slice that you were talking about, Layne.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Such a great example, Amber. And, we all have a slice that could use a little reinventing or pivoting or adjustment at times. So I want to share lastly share on this marketing segment that just because something's not working right now, or that maybe you have refined something, doesn't mean that you can't review it again. So, I come from the process improvement, manufacturing world. But basically what that means is there's an approach of continuous improvement. So there's continuous refinement that's happening in our business. And so what's great about that is you do get to make those tweaks and edits. And, maybe Amber, if you had made those adjustments and it still didn't work, then you would have tried something else more than likely, right? So there's this evolution of testing and trial that happens with our businesses. So I just want to encourage folks that might have felt like, oh, well, I tried a few things already and it hasn't panned out. Then keep testing. There's still opportunities to be gained.
Yeah, and I'll just speak from my experience too. Is that I wish somebody would have told me that podcasting or maybe even blogging, there's several different marketing ways that you get your business out in the world. They're not instant. So you're not going to make a tweak this month and see the difference on the next month you're pulling your metrics. Oh, maybe you will, but I'm saying maybe you won't. And so for me, it had to be just a lot of business experience and gut checking. Like, does this feel right? Do I believe that if I stick to this in the long-term gain, that it is the best use of my time. It is the best investment of my dollars to hire people and do the podcasting, for my example. Today I get people that are like, I've listened to you for 2 years. I've been a listener for 3 years. And I'm like, where have you been? Why did it take so long? But why? I don't know. Whatever was going on in their world. But you know what? I didn't stop showing up and I stayed consistent. And now I'm reaping those benefits consistently because people I have come in at every level over the last, at every time frame over the last 4 years, and I never stopped. So I think some of this is, well, yes, watch the metrics, but also know what part of this strategy is short term, where you'd expect a return right away, and what part of this would be long term benefits.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I hope folks have gotten some good ideas, some good conversion pieces to look at from the marketing side. And I would love to tap in on the team and operations side of things too, Amber. How's that sound?
Yes, go for it.
All right, awesome. Well, I wanted to specifically bring up teams because I feel like this question has come up more and more recently with my audience and probably yours too, Amber. So you're at this stage where you are either looking to hire or you've already got a couple of hires that you're working with, and they may be part-time, they may be full-time, they may be virtual, they may be in person. But at the end of the day, any business owner with team members is wondering, well, are they doing a good job? Or, I feel like they're doing a good job, but how do I know if they're doing a good job? How can I have that certainty and clarity on, is this job position working for them and working for me? And one of the most powerful things that you can do when you do have a team member is to ask them to own a metric. And so when I say own a metric, like what's one thing where, on a weekly basis, they can come back to you and say, hey, here's the update on my metric. So, for example, maybe you have someone that is helping you book consultations. So maybe they're out there doing some of your social media marketing or helping you build your email list and things like that. Is it generating more consultations, or is it actually generating new email list subscribers? Another one that we see on the product side of things is, especially with some of these new email tools, is that you can track the revenue generated by the emails, like it's directly tied in. So we were helping a product business owner the other day come up with, hey, we need the emails to generate $300 worth of product sales going forward. We can see that that's what you averaged last month. Let's keep that going. And I just want to empower you. If you see opportunity now to improve that even more, then we would love to see that from you. But we also want to empower you to know that, hey, this is the core thing that we're looking for you and from you. So how can you report back to us each week on what's working or not working to hit that metric?
Yes. And do you find it to be a little bit difficult for business owners to identify what role each role in their business should be tracking? I'm just trying to get this as an example. I feel like I've talked to clients about this, and some roles that are connected to sales, it's clearly I know exactly what metrics they are influencing. But is this true for an admin role, Layne?
Great question. So my admin, we recently did this practice for ourselves. And so one of my admin's tasks is to get anything that needs to be rescheduled within a 4-hour window or within a 24-hour window, So when we do a lot of scheduling, we do a lot of one-on-one work with our clients. We're, also scheduling podcasts and things like that. So if anything needs to be rescheduled, there's a response and an opportunity to get that rescheduled within a 24-hour window. So that's a metric that she knows that she's responsible for. And then we've got folks that are helping put together reports. So, all right, reports go out by the 7th. So those reports, I would like to see those 100% completed by the 7th. So if the completion rate is less than 100% on the 7th, then I need you to inform me as to why that happened and how we can prevent that from happening next time.
Okay, I love this. So these metrics that they're owning, these data points, is actually an amazing accountability tool. because you don't have to have a conversation to your reports person about their performance if they keep hitting 100. But then you as the business owner can clearly see, well, why are we at 90% or why are we at 85%? And at that time, the number tells you to start asking additional questions. Or in your example, your admin that's, rescheduling appointments within 24 hours, which I was happy to hear because I was like, 4 hours? I was like, how? Tell me, Layne. I was actually listening. I was like, wow, that's impressive.
I think I was just telling someone about the 4-hour work week and I got it mixed up.
Yeah, no worries. I'm all with you. I'm glad you said 24 because I was like, wow, like my jaw was kind of dropped. I'm like, oh my gosh, you can get people to respond to you in 4 hours. That's crazy because no one responds to emails these days. So, but then you then don't have to micromanage her. You're managing the number. And if that number's off, now you can ask questions and maybe it's performance or maybe it's a process issue. Like you as the business owner can help discern that difference.
And that's so powerful. And wait, to add to that too, Amber, it's a metric for you and for them, because much like you said, where they know what their number is and they know if they are within it, then it's black and white, right? It's clear on whether or not that number was hit or whether it wasn't. And so if they are showing up to your weekly team meetings, or maybe you have like a team, Slack update or whatever it is, hey, I'd just love for you to share with me, what was your metric target and what was your actual for last week. And so if they are continuing to post or share with you that they are underperforming, you have that conversation. All right, is there a process tweak or is this a performance issue? Then it's either a process tweak you can work on improving together. You can change that number, or if it's a performance issue, then no one's going to be surprised when you share, hey, we haven't been hitting this metric, and this is a key part of your deliverable. We're going to need to go another direction.
Right. So I want to just connect a couple more dots here, Layne. So for your business, you're providing metric reports. That's your business, right? So the business owner is waiting on the 7th to get their metrics reported to them. You have an internal process that says by the 7th, 100% of reports are sent out. Is that correct? Was I tracking with you there? Okay. Mm-hmm. So the dot that I want to connect here is that Layne is managing the customer experience for her clients. And if that's subpar, meaning reports get out on the 12th or the 15th or whenever they get done, and I, the customer, have a not great experience, am I going to renew with her? Am I going to tell my friend about her? Am I going to refer her? Probably not. And so there's where the tie together with the revenue is that if she's handling or managing a number that affects the customer experience, that ultimately affects additional business coming in to the company, now you're either positively or negatively affecting the lag, which is revenue / profitability in the business.
Absolutely.
So I felt like connecting those dots because we are talking about a lot of different things, and someone may be listening saying, okay, that's great, but like, I actually just need to focus on higher revenues and profitability. Why do I care if reports get out on the 7th? Well, you should care because that's part of that whole path that Layne was talking about, like that customer journey from marketing, prospect, lead down to ultimately client experience.
Yep, absolutely. And you're spending money, right? You're spending money on these team members. So if they're underproductive or they're not productive in producing what they need to be for you, then you are spending more money on a process that could be, generating better profits with someone that is able and capable of handling that on your team.
Right. And I also see this powerful in the business for the business owner that's like, I am not a micromanager. I don't want to micromanage, which I'm not an advocate of at all. But I'm just saying, like, they think that they need to get results maybe. And in this scenario, if you're just looking at the numbers, you actually don't need to ask any other questions until you see a trend. Oh, look, I circled back, a trend of them not hitting their 100% over and over. And now it's a conversation. But before then, you don't need to necessarily get into exactly how are they performing that job every single time if they're hitting their numbers.
Exactly. It's a way to create a self-managed team, but also allow you to keep a thumb on the pulse of what's happening. Because we don't want you to feel like you have to abdicate,
Right.
but we do want to. I kind of liken it to, your team is like they're playing the game with you, right? Like they're on the field, they're on the soccer field with you, but it's hard for them to play in the dark when they don't know what your clear expectations are of them. And a metric is such a clear way to bring them into the light, so that they're not playing in the dark. Everyone's playing in the light. You're marching to the same numbers, and you're helping yourself win in the process.
Yes. Okay. This is great. So thanks for sharing some examples about sales and marketing operations. And then of course we started with the finances. This is really some basic numbers here. Layne, what is your recommendation for a business owner to get started with their numbers? Where do they track it? How do they find these numbers? What would you tell them?
Well, I would clearly outline your three areas: your sale, your marketing, your operations, your finances. The first thing you should be tracking on a monthly basis is your sales. It's one of the cleanest and easiest to track right off the bat. And it's typically already hanging out in a platform you're already using, whether it's QuickBooks or Mint or your spreadsheet. It's one of the easiest things that you can track on a monthly basis. Operations, again, I would really invite you, like if there was one thing that either your team member could look at on how they would know they are successful, like how are they going to know that they're successful on Friday at 5:00? What did they do during the week? Was that completing reports? Was that accomplishing one major project? What is that one metric for either you or them, if you're solo? And then on the marketing side of things, what is your sales conversion rate? Like those are three metrics that you can get to pretty quickly that are going to be really powerful for you. I know we're going to share something else that's exciting coming up for you guys at the end, but I'd also invite you. I do have a free resource that's 12metrics.com, where I actually walk you through the top 12 metrics I've seen be really beneficial for small business owners. And that's got a checklist, and it's also got a 5-minute video that goes with each one of those metrics too, just explaining to you like why it's important and if you need to track it, and why and how that can impact your profitability and your growth.
I love that. And so that's 12, the number 12, metrics, plural.com?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. That's great. And if they want to learn more about you and find out about how your company can help them with their metrics and track their metrics and find their metrics and all those things, can you share us a little bit about what your company does and how they can find you?
Absolutely. I'd be delighted. Thank you, Amber. So I am, data expert and dashboard expert at The Project Booth. So you can find me at theprojectbooth.com. It starts with the THE. And so we work one-on-one with our clients to really audit what's happening in their business and also make a plan forward to, once you know your numbers, how can we improve those together? So we love to work one-on-one with our clients to take the heavy lifting of metrics off your shoulders, but to also communicate its importance along the way. And so we do that by making numbers visual and simple through typically creating visual dashboards to really make it clean and easy to see what's happening in your business.
That's awesome. I am actually in the middle of this being a project for Q2 as well for my business, is having visual dashboards. I'm a huge proponent. I think that if you've been thinking about it and you are not the person or you don't have someone on your team that can do the numbers and metrics, I would really highly recommend you talk to Layne and, look at what her company can do for you. Because if you can sit in the seat of the CEO and know what numbers matter in your business and what those numbers are, you will become a better business owner. You will be a better leader and quicker at making decisions. I think it's incredibly powerful. We have metrics. I lean on metrics just because I kind of geek out like Layne does. Like, to me, this matters, but I don't have a visual dashboard. To me, that's like Christmas. I can't even wait until I have the coolest visual dashboards. So I am all about this. And so that's why also we wanted to have Layne on here, is to just open up the conversation about metrics and let you know that if you don't have it and you didn't know this service existed, it does, which is really cool. but also because Layne and I have something special that's coming up that we want to invite you to. Layne, do you want to share a little bit about what we're inviting them to join us for?
Yes, absolutely. So, guys, I don't know about you, but there's been a lot of moving and shaking happening in the small business world over the past 12 months. And so one of my favorite things to do is to bring experts together, people that are truly helping their clients succeed, that are helping businesses grow, and let's get them into a round table and let's ask them the hard questions on what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and have some interaction so that we can ask questions and kind of be a high impact mastermind in the process. So Amber is actually coming on and being one of our roundtable experts. We are hosting for our Simplify and Scale series, and it's all going to be about productivity shortcuts for the high achieving entrepreneur. And so we wanted to extend an invitation for you guys to grab your free front row ticket. That is going to be an online workshop, and you can grab that ticket at amber.scaling2021.com.
Excellent. And we'll make sure that we have a link in the show notes. I'm really excited. If you're listening to this episode, it is this week is the event. I want you all there. If you can make it happen on your schedule, I think that this is going to be a phenomenal event. While I love talking metrics, I really love talking productivity. So this roundtable is going to be a great opportunity for us to come together and really share some things that we find are working and hear other people's perspectives and voices around productivity, which is great and exciting. Layne, thank you so much for being an amazing guest and, really making metrics fun and showing us why they're so incredibly valuable to our businesses.
My pleasure, Amber. Thanks again for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Layne as much as I did. I really wanted to bring her to you because the conversation about metrics and numbers can seem a bit intimidating or overwhelming if you tell yourself things like, numbers aren't my thing, or I don't want to look, or what do those numbers mean in my business, and make a big story about that. I really wanted to bring this to the surface and show you that it's true. Data over drama. And I am going to challenge you to let go of the stories that you have attached to the numbers, if that is what's holding you back from looking at the numbers. You are the CEO. You are the business owner. It is your responsibility to make decisions based on accurate information. And to do that, you need to know your numbers. You need to understand what is going on in your business so that when you're making these strategic decisions like hiring or making a new offer or product or embarking on a new journey with marketing your business. In fact, the list is endless. I can think of very few big strategic decisions. In fact, I can't think of any that I would not consult my numbers before making. So I would really encourage you to get started. And if you need help, ask for help. There are experts out there like Layne that can certainly help you and guide you and work with you and your company to get you on the right track with metrics. If you're not in a place in your business currently to hire a consultant or an expert in metrics, start somewhere and start small. And start with your financials. Then you can keep stacking and growing as your business grows, adding more metrics and more numbers to look at once you determine that those additional data points are actually able to help you make decisions. I have an episode coming up soon all about decision making. And when I think of what are the reasons that we delay or avoid making decisions, oftentimes it's because we don't feel like we have enough information to make those decisions. So let's make sure we have the information we need to make these decisions by getting this data and information from our businesses on a regular basis. I have absolutely loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk. But I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. Based on today's episode, big or small, I want you to leave here. I want you to just pause for a moment. I'm going to pause with you and just decide right now what is the action step you can take based off of today's episode. Ready? Go. All right, welcome back. I hope you gave yourself the time that you need to actually decide what action step you're going to take before you hit the next episode or the next podcast you're listening to or jumping back into your day. And lastly, before we leave, I want to remind you of this roundtable event that Layne is hosting and has invited me as one of the experts. There are going to be 9 experts sharing with you their productivity shortcuts for high-achieving solopreneurs. And this live event is going down on May 6th. So make sure you sign up. You can go to amber.scaling2021.com. Again, that's amber.scaling2021.com. I cannot wait to see you there. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.